Yeah, I love this story.
All right, welcome to Miracle TV. This is the second part of the show where we talk about more cultural and local issues. Today, it's me and Stuart. And this morning, we're going to jump straight into energy matters as the first part of the show. So, Stuart, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, hi. Well, I'm Stuart Norby, as you may know, and I'm also the editor and publisher of greenbarrel.com, which is a website devoted to more investment in renewable energy. But I also do write about all kinds of energy things. And this week I'm going to talk about nuclear energy because it's very much in the news at the moment, although in the back pages where it can't be found, basically. And the news basically is that the government has given the go ahead to build Hinkley Point, Sizewell C on the Suffolk coastline. Now, at this point, I must declare an interest. I am very familiar with that beautiful part of the coastline because we have family connections there. When I was a kid, I used to go along with my big brother and his wife, and we used to stay in Southwold, which is near where Sizewell C. And it always surprised me why my ears glowed when I went into the sea. That is a joke. But the thing was, later on, we got a family home or a family beach house, not a beach house, right smack dab near Sizewell C. And I really think it's an abomination. It's in between where we and Minsmere, a wonderful a wonderful place to be. So that is my own personal interest. But the other interest I have is that back in the day, I was writing copiously about Hinkley Point, which is another nuclear plant that we can probably do without, but there you are. And so if we I will now talk about some things about Hinkley Point, and then we go into a Guardian article perhaps about what Sizewell C means. Now, Hinkley C, right, was part of a deal that the then Chancellor, George Osborne, managed, where he bribed the Chinese to actually invest in Hinkley Point. And Hinkley Point was going to cost at that stage £18 billion to build. And the Chinese were expected to pay £6 billion of that money. The rest would come to what's known as the contract for difference. A contract for difference is where the government and the company, in this case EDF, agree a price for building it. If it goes beyond that price, the government must pay. If it goes below the price, the company must pay. So then they decided that they would have a contract for difference, which meant that if the price, or I just said this, the price went above the agreed price, the government would pay for it. And the way that they paid for it is through this conference with difference, whereby the government has a subsidy called contract for difference, whereby the cost goes up. But the cost is paid for by the consumers. That's where it's not the government that pays, it's the consumers, the people that pay for this thing to be built. And they probably don't know that's being built. Because what happened after that was that Chinese agreed through a company called CNN, and they made the condition that the British would allow China to build 3 more nuclear power plants on British soil. First would be in Bradwell on Sea in Essex. Second one would be Sizewell C in Suffolk, and the third will be Sellafield in the north of England. And we had to pay for that for the confidential difference because the cost keep going up. And when it gets to the successor to Hinkley Point, I'd like to read you an article from The Guardian about Sizewell C, which is really illuminated and will tell you more of those things that I've already told you. Right? So if I may, I'll read this to you. See if I can read it. It's a very nice picture of the Sizewell C. In fact, Sizewell C is apparently twice as big as Sizewell B. So that whole block on the landscape has been expanded. Right. So the text goes as follows. The government has given planning consent to the 20 billion Sizewell C nuclear power plant in Suffolk. The decision by the business secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, which I often stroke myself from calling something else, not making the fact that he's black. I thought it was some Kwasi something, which had been repeatedly delayed, was finally announced on Wednesday and went against the advice of the Independent Planning Inspectorate. French energy company EDF, or it is then, who was messed up at Hinkley Point, wants to build the 32-gigawatt 2-reactor plant next to its existing site at Sizewell B, which began operating in 1995. However, the proposals have faced fierce opposition from local campaigners, quite right in my opinion, who have argued against the project because of the environmental impact and the cost of energy to energy bill payers. Campaigners now have 6 weeks to decide whether to appeal against the decision. Planning permission was seen as the key hurdle for the project, which remains subject to a further final investment decision expected next year. It is hoped the plant can generate around enough power, 6 million homes. Okay? Planning inspector rejected the scheme because it concerned over the plant's impact on the protected species and habitats and the long-term water supply on the site. So we then go on. Right. First of all, it says, now the government says the Sizewell C may cost double the government's estimates and take 5 years longer to build. That's the other point. Hinkley Point is years over its deadline date and still is. Right? However, it is understood that the UK government is keen to ease CDN, the Chinese company, out amid concerns over Chinese involvement with sensitive assets. There, I told you, viewers. That's exactly what was going to happen. Boris Johnson's government put £100 of funding behind the project in January to support this development. Carly Vince, the project's chief planning officer, said, Sizewell C will be good for the region, creating thousands of opportunities for local people and businesses. Will it really? Ha, ha, ha. It will boost local biodiversity and leave Suffolk can be proud of. God, proud of this bloody blot on the landscape, this absolutely life destroyer. I'll come to that. So there's one benefit. Sizewell C will give a big drive boost to jobs and skills in nuclear supply chain companies across the country. No, it won't. It will strengthen the UK's energy security and play a key role in our fight against climate change. No, it won't. Alison Downs of the Stop Sizewell C campaign said, the wrong decision has been made, but it's not the end of our campaign to stop Sizewell C. Not only will we be looking closely at appealing this decision, we'll continue to challenge every aspect of Sizewell C because Where it is on the impact on consumers, the massive costs and delays, the outstanding technical questions, or the environmental impact, it remains a very bad risk. Retrospect, Chief Government of the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds says the construction of this proposed development will be damaging. It has been granted with insufficient consideration for the effects on nature as described by the government's own experts. This is a ludicrous decision for an interim government to make. That's it all. Now, the whole thing about nuclear, let's go back to that. The whole thing about nuclear is that it went out of nobody. No nuclear plant was built since 30 years. That seems to be gone. But they were very, very unpopular for things like the nuclear waste. Now, I have to gone to Germany because they've got a real problem, and they actually took me down a mine and they said that this is going to disintegrate and the biosphere will be affected by millions of years. So that's what the Germans did. But what are we doing here? In fact, to actually curb the, and when they say that look, it's good for climate change because we actually will not be polluting the atmosphere. Sure, they do not emit carbon emissions, and that's why it's classified as a renewable energy. But when you think about it, it's not renewable because the source rock is uranium, and that's not inexhaustible. It's might not be there. Okay, so that's one thing about them. And then they talk about climate change being killing people. Well, I have a book written by John May here telling you how many people are killed by nuclear accidents. It comes to hundreds. The Chernobyl, look at that, that's 100 people. Look at actually Sellafield way back in the day, where people are still dying from it, and that was during 66.
Well, can I say the Chernobyl thing, you say 100 people, it's affected a lot more than that. I have Ukrainian neighbors who were born downstream from Chernobyl. And apparently the village that he grew up in, every single woman in the village died of breast cancer.
Well, that's a very good point, you see. And then, okay, save the planet now, as the hippies would say. Climate change, nuclear is not helping it. No, it's not. All right, we can't say that everybody's going to be saved, but what about these hundreds of people who've already suffered from climate change? And the nuclear part and nuclear role in it. It's very, very worrying, the whole thing.
Were you ever a hippie?
Oh, well, I don't know what a hippie is, really. I think hippies are people who succeeded with bohemians, if you see what I mean. Artistic people who more or less did what they liked and so forth. No, I don't think I was, really. I was a bit too straight for that, man.
You're not artistic.
I'm a straight man.
You're autistic.
I'm very artistic.
I said autistic.
I'm autistic. I know you like to band that about, but you won't get a jump on me. I will admit to ADHD. Now, do you know what that means to you?
Hyperattention deficit disorder?
No.
What does it mean?
ADHD means
Hyperattention deficit disorder.
Attention deficit.
Oh.
Disorder. Attention deficit impulsiveness, or
Does the D stand for dementia?
ADHD. No, it doesn't actually. Attention deficit is the problem I've got. Right?
ADD, attention deficit disorder.
Yeah.
ADHD is hyperattention deficit disorder. Attention. It's somewhere around there. It's fine. You know what we all know what it means.
It's something. What is the H stand for?
Hyper.
Yes, that's it. Hyper disorder.
I just said that like 5 times.
Right. And the difference between that and autism is the social aspect. My ADHD counsellor said that autism, you're not autistic because it's the social things, and people with that don't really mix with social people. They sit at home on their computers, don't they?
Yeah.
But then, so that was hyperactivity was what was in my case. Like they asked 4 questions about the attention deficit, and I only scored 4. Yeah, that's because I keep talking, and according to her, I used to interrupt in class. It's very boring for your friends. Hyperactivity is where you do mad, unsuspected things. And I went off to Vietnam. I did all kinds of silly things that I shouldn't have done. Plus, I should have done. And when I went to see my doctor not so long ago, he said, "I think your ADHD has done you very, very well." In fact, because I became, but I think about, I'm very passionate about all these renewable things. And it's the government again, they totally failed to have, a proper nuclear energy policy in place. Whatever bloody prime minister's in place, I think it's wrong. I mean, I really am very cross about this hyperspace. We'll see. We go up there. Me and my wife go up there. We stay sometimes with our relatives and elsewhere in South Wales.
Do you have a house near there?
Yeah, my family does, yeah.
Oh.
And the beach house. It's in the dunes. It's not a beach hut on the front. We go there quite a lot, actually. Particularly going to Minsmere, the bird sanctuary, which is incredible.
Wait, is the bird sanctuary right next to the nuclear plant?
Will be.
Well, that's
just the crossing of a road.
Interesting.
It's abominable. Well, not very interesting. I mean, it's just the excesses of bloody capitalism, isn't it? Really, ultimately, that's what it all comes down to. That people just want to make money out of anything they can.
So is that the end of Energy Matters?
I guess, unless you want me to rant on a bit more about the same things.
Well, I think
we've come out of time.
Well, yeah, no, I think Keith is going to go and do some outside broadcasting. He's going to go up and down the street now Energy Matters is finished.
Does he have a tin can rattling for money? Hello, I'm homeless.
All right.
I'm homeless. Please help me.
We'll take a 2-minute break. We'll see scenes in Sussex. And then Keith will go outside and show us Lewis High Street and what's going on. So we'll be back in a moment.
No, tell him to actually say, if the bloke's got an ATM sitting underneath an ATM with a can of lager, don't give him any money. It's only because he'll use it for drugs and bloody sex, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. We'll do scenes in Sussex now. We'll see you in a moment. Hello, and we're back. It's just me at the moment. Keith is going to go off in a second. He's going to go up Lewis High Street and show us what's going on today. And he's going to show us around it. I think he's going to walk up towards the castle, maybe. But we'll see what happens. So, just for a roundup of the headlines today, Liz Truss has been polling at 50% due to the last debates. Rishi Sunak is only at 39. No, sorry, not 49, 39. So 50% for Liz Truss, 49 for Rishi, 11% for, I guess, absent vote or no, or none of the above. But during the debate, someone collapsed, which was unfortunate. The host, she just passed out. Everyone's been talking about it, but no one's explained why she passed out, which is concerning. We have a headline here from the Daily Mail. Air pollution is likely to be causing dementia. That is pretty concerning. I don't know why I'm not sure how air pollution is causing dementia. Landmark reports show toxic emissions speed up mental decline. Okay, so we were talking about this earlier with the brake dust from cars. Brake dust is one of the most toxic things that you can breathe in. It's very toxic. And new cars, I know Tesla, all Teslas have these now, but they're using magnetic brakes. So magnetic brakes work as you would assume. They are magnets to slow the car down. And it's a lot more expensive, but it gets rid of that toxic chemical. But everything all right out there?
Well, I can't get used on the phone. I think he's just listening to this program.
Okay. Well, that was a good show for Energy Matters, by the way. Well done. Interesting stories there.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I'm just going to work with.
Okay.
See what.
So I have. Sorry.
Right. You want me to come back?
Yeah.
Or have you finished?
No, we're not finished. We're nowhere near finishing.
Well, let's find out what you think.
Let me just take a minute break. I need to go find out what's going on. I'm not sure what's happening. We're having some technical issues, I think. So we're going to go for a garden park. That's 1 minute long. We'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we sorted everything out. Now we're going to be going to Keith now. He's going to be going out on the high street. We'll bring him into the stream now.
Well, you didn't tell me that you're going to play with the old man, for God's sake, sending him out here. Bother me. Right. Okay. Now I'm leaving the hotel, White Hart Hotel, right in the center of Lewis. And as long as you actually get a signal, I shall take you out into the high street and let's see what's going on out here. Because it's quite a pleasant day. The sun is, it's breaking through the clouds. We can expect a temperature of about 23 or 24. So all in all, quite pleasant out here in the town. And I'm actually out in the high street now. I guess I can show you a little bit of it. there is Lewes High Street, and I'm strolling up it. Strange enough, it's quite busy for this time of morning. I'm a bit surprised. And there are a number of people around and about. Although, strangely enough, not strangely, I suppose, tourism in Lewes seems to be on the up, because an awful lot of people with backpacks who are poking around and hoking around and are interested in the history and what's going on. I'm mildly surprised, I suppose.
Hello, Keith. Are you still there? I don't think you are. Well, unfortunately, Keith has frozen. I thought this would happen.
Which has
Hello.
Many historic. Am I still with you? Yeah. 1948, when George Hay.
Yeah, you're dropping in and out, but you're here for now.
Right. Okay. Well, I won't go too far then, because obviously we need to strengthen that signal with the G6 or the G27 or whatever the hell it is.
G4G, yeah.
But I was just mentioning that right across the road is the courthouse, and one of the famous cases there was, I think it was 1948, was George Hay, known as the acid bath murderer, who murdered, I think, about 7 ladies. He was after their jewelry and all their bank accounts, and then he boiled them in acid in the bath, so that his argument was no corpse, no charge of murder. But they got him anyway. I think it was on a gallstone, believe it or not, that he left in one of the baths. And he was tried in this court over here, and the jury took just 14 minutes to find him guilty, and off he went and was hanged by the neck until dead. So there is lots on this high street that is very, very historic, and there are people hoking around and trying to find out what it's all about. So hopefully we might just be able to help them. There is up the road, of course, the castle is. Perhaps I better stand in the street and it's a gust of wind. This gentle breeze almost took my hat. But behind me is the high street, and up there is the castle, which was one of the very first Norman castles to be built after the conquest. And I've seen many actions from the time of the conquest, when of course it was built to keep out the Saxons, those nasty, pesky Saxons who kept on harassing the Normans, right through to the Battle of Lewes in 1264, and that was when English democracy sparked to life, with Simon de Montfort putting Henry III's troops to flight. So we've got lots and lots and lots to offer here in the history sense, not least of which is the hotel itself, which many people see the inside of it. I don't know whether you can see behind me the White Hart Hotel.
Yeah, we can.
And that is an old coaching inn that has lots of history, not least of which is it is where Tom Paine did his best to develop the rights of man, and then depart for the United States and start the War of Independence. So lots and lots that is sprinkled just off the high street. The nice thing is you don't have to walk very far. Since I can't walk at all at the moment, I'm grateful for that. But we do have an enormous amount, and including people who rev, because actually I was interested in your pollution story, because some people consider that noise pollution is more dangerous than air pollution. And most certainly on this high street, you get plenty of noise. Max, I don't know whether you've been able to hear me through that, but
we have,
that's what's happening on the high street. The clouds are gathering. We may have a little rain in a moment or two, in which case I shall race out with my little cup and get the drops of water, just to add to my scotch. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, Keith. At least on StreamYard we can. Can you hear us well?
Indeed, if I can, yes. We're having a good two-way conversation. I think the big problem is that when I walk along a little, that it starts to drop out. But
Yeah.
I'll try it as a last issue, walking up the high street, because, as I say, it's a very interesting high street. And we are running a campaign on Mirador to help save the high street. And we have made an offer to any of the traders and the business people who face the high street, anywhere from the bottleneck down to the bottom of Cliff High Street, is if they want to come along and drop in anytime between 8:30 and 11 on any weekday, that they can come in and they can sit down with us, and we'll talk to them and give them 15 minutes or more to explain who they are, what they sell, why they're there, and why they think why they stay trading on the high street. So we can't do fairer than that. And the thing is that you don't have to put it in your diary. Just drop by, drop in, and we will have a chat. As it is, lots of people wandering up and down the high street. Well, actually, it's beginning to thin out again, and the traffic is increasing. Funny patterns, I think, on this high street, but then funny patterns all over the country, because nobody seems to want to go back to work after COVID. Is working from home is what a soft touch that is. I understand that there are several divorces around because the worker, whether that may be male or female, is at home all the time, and the partner, used to having it to her own self during the day, is getting pissed off with having him or her hanging around. So that probably has something to do with it.
Yeah. What's the weather like out there? It's looking quite gloomy out there.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
What's the weather like out there? It seems to be quite gloomy.
It's quite pleasant, but the clouds are beginning to scud across. And I don't think it's going to... Well, I don't know. There's one or two ominous things. The forecast isn't for rain today, but we could find one or two drops. But I don't think you need your umbrella, and I don't think you need sort of to bring out a Macintosh. It is very warm. It's pleasant, very pleasant indeed. And I suppose what we are used to is an English summer's day, as opposed to the heat wave we had a week ago. So yes, a day to get out, a day to bring your own water.
You've lived here for quite a while. You've lived here for about 30 years, right?
Yes.
Looking at Lewes High Street today, what has changed since you originally came here?
Well, all the nice shops have disappeared.
Well, now I have to be very careful that I'm not too critical of the local council. Ha ha ha! I'm always critical of the local council, but I understand that sometime in the 1990s, a policy decision was made that they would move a lot of the shops from the upper part of the high street down to Cliff, and slowly that's happened. So when I was first here, there was a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, a greengrocer, you name it, all up this end of town. Now there aren't any at all. Sort of, well, if you want to buy sausages from a charity shop, you can. But other than that, it's a bit of a strange area. There are coffee shops, funeral parlours, dress shops, charity stores, and you name it. But if, for instance, I wanted to actually go and get say an apple or an orange right now, I would have great difficulty.
Keith, don't forget that I think it was during Mrs. May, or one of those prime ministers or pretend prime ministers, they pushed up business rates to unbelievable levels.
Yeah.
And therefore the shops just died. This is very common to a lot of high streets, you know. On the other hand,
it is.
I think that the next to
online shopping.
No, the online shopping has changed things. Also, the pedestrianisation of Cliff has made a huge difference. It's like the you know, you've got lots of artisan shops down there, haven't you? And that's just got some. You know, you can't park in the high street park anymore. If you want to go down to the Cliff, you have to go around the Tesco car park or one behind the when you're in, that kind of thing.
One wonders, after one of the headlines this morning in your favourite paper, Stuart, the Financial Times, that many companies are now pushing up their prices so that all sorts of things are going to be more expensive, not least of which is led by Amazon. Now, if Amazon are pushing up their prices, is it going to actually turn a little bit towards the favour of the high street, where prices will become competitive again? I'm terribly sorry, but I am not a social media animal at all. I recognise its value, I recognise its worth, but I sometimes think it's a bit of a fad, and that people will go back to wanting to meet a shopkeeper and say, "Please tell me what this is." Well, that's stunned, haven't it?
Well, look, this thing. What amazes me, to be perfectly frank, is we still got a travel agent in the high street, well, just off the high street, Walgreens. That is marvellous, because things like travel agents have just disappeared totally from high streets, right? So that's really very nice, and there's one or two other nice things about high street, mainly the hotels in it, and that's very nice where we're here. And but I think it's really business rates that did for the high street.
And the rental of properties as well.
Yeah. Lewis is one of the most expensive towns in the country. Am I right in saying that?
Yes. Well, in terms of property, it is. Yeah. Second.
It's the second most expensive town in the country.
Well, apparently, one in Buckinghamshire is either Howard or one of those places. Right. One of those places up there,
Yeah.
Once you get past Barnet, it's all posh. Last Watford, you have to get before Watford before you've left the general public behind.
Well, actually, if you ask the difference between when I first came here in 1990, I suppose really that Lewis was a bit posh. It was very county, and people still met in the hotel to have dinners and lunches and that sort of thing.
Well, actually,
now it's very middle class.
No. The centre of the town is middle class, and somebody in the posh houses in Southover, and also up top as well. Very, very nice properties. In Wales, all the time, there's been 3 events. Okay, you've got Morgan, you've got Winterbourne, I think, and Neville, haven't you? That's 4.
Yeah, but if I go into a coffee shop now, what I see is people coming in, pushing their prams, talking about their knitting, and all sorts of stuff that would bore me silly within 2 seconds. Even 5 years ago or 6 years ago, we used to come and do a Mirador from Cafe Nero at 5 o'clock in the morning. And what an interesting bunch of people we had in that coffee shop. But they're not. They've all gone. They dissipated. So what you've got now is 100 prams, 10 balls of wool for knitting, and a conversation which would drive you nuts. I mean, how in God's name some of these people get married? I have no idea.
Well, there is actually a baby. There was an incredible baby boom going on in this town at the moment. You can't walk down the pavement without a threat of being run over by a pan. There's a baby boom on in Lewis.
A baby what?
Baby boom.
Baby boom.
Oh, a baby boom. Well, I'm a bit surprised. They were all at home during COVID, weren't they?
Well, where are they going to go to school?
I hate to say it, but what else did they have to do?
The thing about children is that they grow up and ask you for money. So.
Well, actually, you said that you were sending me out to earn my keep this morning, and I actually make it by I don't just beg. I actually sing for my supper, and listening to you, Stuart, I thought this morning I was going to start off with when the lights in the world go out once again, or is that what it was? Yeah. When the lights in the world go out again. I think it was originally a song during the war, wasn't it? sung
Yeah.
by Vera Lynn.
Yeah.
When the lights go on again, I think were the words then. But now it's when the lights go out again, for God's sake. Is all the people that you've been explaining this morning getting everything wrong, is that they're going to put the lights out, not on.
Yeah.
Well, I am now going to wander back to the hotel. It's very good to talk to you chaps from the high street. We know it can be done now, so we'll be a bit daring in the future. I commend the viewers to listening to the two of you, because I can't. Toodles.
Bye. All right. Well, that was interesting. That was good. We'll quickly go to a short scenes in. Go to the energy show because that's fitting. We did Energy Matters earlier.
Well done, the energy companies. They're full of bright ideas to help their customers. Now they've made power so expensive that for an average house such as this, you can't afford to heat it. So you don't need appliances such as this. But that means you also don't need a fridge, because you can keep your groceries cool and fresh without it. The house is cold enough. Well done, chaps.
I want a fridge.
That was Keith's energy clip. I quite like that. It's funny.
Why don't you get yourself a curse or a wigwam? See if you can. Wigwam. See if you can park in Baxter's Field, or in the bird sanctuary. They might like that. A few birds to keep you company. Just imagine waking up to a nice little wood pigeon, and his missus comes back. Oh dear.
So, have you got any stories that you'd like to bring up? Is the question.
Well, I quite like this one in the mail. I don't know whether you've come across this. It seems you've gone all out of print, right? Now that one, I'm not a hypocrite. It says £100,000 a year, union boss living in council flat. Now, what does this remind you of? What does this remind you of?
I don't know.
Arthur Scargill and his Jaguar car.
Who's
Arthur Scargill was a union man during the coal miners' strike in 1974 and thereafter. And what are these people trying to get? He's got. It's like my energy people, isn't it? Really? Because I living in a council flat. Well, if you've got that kind of money, you presumably should have a council flat. Crazy.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, these people, these union bosses, they're as rich as old creases, They really are.
Speaking of,
it's like the people who run energy supply companies, isn't it? Really, they pay themselves a fortune, and all the increase in prices is put upon the consumers. That's it. They're just actually coining it. The energy suppliers pay themselves fat salaries, and yet that money is supposed to go to alleviate the energy bills. But it doesn't seem to work out that way.
well, speaking of, not speaking of, but I have an interesting headline here from Sky News, actually. Police seize Ferrari and police turn it into 200-mile-an-hour police car. So the Italian supercar will be used against the most aggressive drivers on Czech highways. Oh, I thought this was a British one. Sorry, my bad. Chechnyan highways. So they confiscated a Ferrari because someone didn't pay for it properly. And it's now a police car, which is pretty cool. Look at this. Ferrari 458 police
I
car.
hope it doesn't go to his head and he tries to take on Lewis Hamilton. Well, that's a very good piece of news.
What?
Joni Mitchell has gone back to singing for the first time in about 30 years. Joni Mitchell was a wonderful, wonderful singer.
Who's he?
A singer. Canadian, actually. Joni Mitchell has surprised you with some lovely albums. Her fans with her first full-length concert in 2 decades. The 78-year-old singer who suffered an aneurysm in 2015 stole the show after appearing unexpectedly in the Newport Folk Convention in Rhode Island. It was the first visit to the US since 1969. She was great. She made amazing albums.
I've not heard of her. I'll have a listen.
Don't you think you get a LP called Blue?
So I have this one, also from Sky News, actually. I'm sure this can't go wrong. Never hasn't ever before. Zimbabwe launches gold coin as legal tender to tackle hyperinflation. As inflation in Zimbabwe reached
300%.
Jesus Christ. No, inflation in Zimbabwe reached 837% in 2020.
I'm sure.
And this gold coin has helped to reduce 60.7% of inflation by this coin. I'm not sure quite how that works, but
Well, I'll tell you what that means, right?
What?
Only a very few people have the gold coins to spend.
Yeah.
So the actual expenditure by gold coins will be very, very small. Maybe they're just buying themselves wonderful motor cars or whatever.
maybe. I wonder how much the gold coin is worth in pounds. I don't think it says here. No, it doesn't say how much the gold coin is worth.
Well, I told you about inflation and
Oh, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Sorry. That gold coin in pounds is worth £1,514.
Yeah.
That's how much that coin is worth. That's not okay.
not many people have got that. You understand? But look,
Not in Zimbabwe,
look at
no.
when you talk about currency inflation. Back in the day when I was at the war in Cambodia, okay, started off the real, which is their currency, was 7 to the US dollar. By the time I left, another 5 years later, it went to 16,000. $16,000. 16,000 reals to the dollar.
And it used to be 17.
It used to be 7.
7
Yeah.
when you first went there, and then 5
So
years.
by that one time you left, you need actually a bag to go and pay for a cup of tea.
Have you ever do you actually have to do that? Like carry bags to go pay for like food, like bags of money?
Well, I did, yeah. I used to put it around my bag.
That's ridiculous.
When you changed it, see, the point was, I was paid in pounds, so I could buy things and change my money, dollars or real. Bank account in Hong Kong, whereas some of it went buying these things.
So I'll do this one more story, and then we'll take a break for one of the shows. We'll do one of the original shows Mirador did, so we'll do a break in a little bit. But have this story here from the Telegraph. It's not okay to be fat in the army, force fitness instructor says. No S. Wow, I am shocked. But people are shocked by this. People are saying it's fat phobic to not allow fat people into the army. Have you seen this?
I can't quite believe it.
It's discriminating against fat people to not allow them in the army.
Well, it depends on what they're able to do.
Not
I mean,
drama.
if you're enormous, it might be difficult getting behind a wheel of a tank. I mean, I'm not making a case for that. I'm just saying. you're getting into, you get almost into a sort of like self-identification like women, transgender, because if they're barred just because they're fat, that's appalling, really.
No.
But if they're barred because they're fat and they won't be able to use some of the machinery or something like that, that is you might
You
call
have to be
racism.
like the fittest of the fit to be in the army.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Well, certain parts of it have.
But you don't want to be having. There are certain people you don't want on the front lines of our army, and the people you do want are extremely healthy people. That's who you want. Strong people, not people my size. You really don't kind of want that on the front lines. That would be ridiculous. But I understand why there's a weight limit to the army. I don't know. It doesn't make sense that people think it's fat phobic. I don't know. Everything's ridiculous now. Nothing's normal. Well, we'll do a break here. What can we show? Just looking for something. Okay, so we have shown program 1 before a couple times. So I'm going to now show program 2, and we'll see how that goes. It'll probably just be, this is a half an hour long clip, so we're only going to play about the first 10 minutes. So it won't be too long. So here we go. It should work.
There's been a few new additions to the town over the summer. Whole raft of new eating and sleeping places cropped up in Lewes over the summer. Most of them were in Cliff, but Coat is at the top of the town on the high street. So far, I've only been in for a cup of coffee, but they've been very welcoming, and I suppose that it looks as if it'll do very well. Give it a try. Then there is Aqua at the bottom of the town, attached to the Premier Inn, also new. I've been in there as well, and they were equally as welcoming, and didn't mind that I just popped in for a cup of coffee and not a full meal. But Fuego is something else. I've only looked in through the front door. It's a new concept, of course, of cafe bar. Not new in the continent, I suppose, but not terribly frequent over here. And I haven't been in there because I'm a bit afraid I might go for the bar rather than the coffee. But one day I'll give it a chance. Anyway, some places new in Lewes over the summer, and places for you to try.
I'm here in the village of Charleston, a charming, picturesque British village with a population of 500.
That's not Charleston, Keith. This is Charleston, South Carolina. A charming, picturesque village with a population of 120,000 in the United States.
What about this town, Boston? 120 miles north of London in England. Population, 35,000.
That's not Boston. This is the real Boston. Boston, Massachusetts, population 4 million.
What about this lovely little city, York? I suppose you Yankees have one of those too.
Yes, we do. Welcome to the new and improved York.
Now here's one you can't beat, London. That's London in England. Population, 8 million.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Join us for a journey to different cities with the same name.
A new show comparing big American cities with the small British and European towns that share the same name.
We never should have let you win that little war, Melissa.
Actually, Keith, we beat you at 2 little wars.
What's in a name?
Coming soon to public television.
Little devil on my shoulder, telling me to hold on, telling me to go strong. The decisions that I'm going on, late nights, bright lights, wanna see the city tonight. Maybe I'll do it twice. I say fuck it tonight. That's right, little devil never seems to keep it on the level. Don't care if I'm going to hell, no. I'm gonna do the little devil's I'm gonna do the little devil's deeds. Cocaine, campaign. I can't stop, no way. Gonna check in, really check out as soon as I feel okay. Late nights, bright lights, wanna see the city tonight. Maybe I'll do it twice. Maybe I'll say fuck it tonight. Yeah, that's right. Little devil never wants to keep it on the level. Don't care if I'm going to hell, no. I'm gonna do the little devil's deeds. Oh, 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 oh. Whoa, do the little devil's deeds. Oh, 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 oh. All right.
Well, the funny thing is that when you see it on television, they look at the camera and they look very funny.
This was what the prison looked like when the British Admiralty bought it to house the prisoners of war.
So they bought the prison and they made many adaptations to it. One of them, interestingly, they took the doors off the cells.
Good for freedom of movement, but not so good for privacy. The dolls survive in the local museum, all that remains of the prison's interior. Prisoners were separated. The enlisted men, mostly Finns, Swedes and a few Ireland Islanders, were put into the prison, 3 to a cell. But it was a different situation for the Russian officers.
The officers, very different case. They were billeted out amongst the gentry families of the town and surrounding areas, not just Lewis. They had freedom of movement, they had freedom of association, and they generally joined in, if you like, middle to gentry class society. So we have an account, for example, of the officers being very popular dancing partners at local balls because they could waltz so much better than Englishmen. There we go.
Not all the Russians lost themselves in the pleasures of the waltz. Many, like your...
He sat on the bank while the river still chattered onto him, a babbling procession of the best stories in the world. That was the excitement that Mole experienced in the
I can't believe I just did that. Oh, sorry. I didn't unmute. Anyway, I was saying we got some more stories from behind the headlines. Stuart, you've got one here from the Financial Times newspaper.
Yeah, this is most interesting. Sunak pledges to axe VAT on energy bills. Well, that pledge was about 6 months ago when the 29 companies were going bust. The government said, well, one thing to do is to actually abolish that on energy bills. But he hasn't done it.
Well,
Next, he promised to remove green levies, and he hasn't done that either. So what's going on?
well, I
Sorry.
think he purposely didn't do that so he can have something to run on as Prime Minister. Because don't forget, he was the one who ruined the economy for us.
No, he ruined it.
Yeah.
In what way he ruined
He was the Chancellor of...
it?
yeah.
So in which way has he ruined it, you reckon?
He was advising. He was the advisor for the economy, right?
No, he didn't ask people, he told them what to do.
Oh, told them.
Yeah.
Well, here's my point. He was telling people what to do and made some bad decisions. Again, I will bring this up once more. I don't know if I think I told you about this. But did you see that Rishi Sunak was endorsed by the CCP,
What's that?
the Chinese Communist Party?
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was Liz Truss that was up in bed with the Chinese
No,
parties.
no, it's Rishi Sunak. And
Well, perhaps they're trying to get
World
some
Economic
money out of
Forum.
them. They got lots of money.
Politician being corrupt?
No,
That doesn't sound
no,
right.
Of course not. No.
I don't think that's true.
But the Chinese have got a lot of money saved because, and a lot of that, they didn't know where to invest it. So eventually they invested it in US bonds because that seemed a safe place to keep it.
Mm.
But, what happened was it was like two blind men holding one another up. Bloody Chinese, the Chinese were had lots of money but didn't know what to do with it. The Americans didn't have a lot of money, didn't know what to do with it. Once the Chinese propped them up. So they started, I don't know what they started doing. But the reason thing here with abolishing the energy, the green VAT, is that you had to do something quickly to actually restore people's confidence in the government and the regulator, which did not happen. And then they tried, if we lift the green levies, then we can put a bit more on the bills, sort of thing. That didn't happen. Then he tried this contract for difference, which I told you about, or said he would, which says contract for difference. You know what that is? I told you, isn't it?
Mm.
Contract for difference is where two parties agree on a price, like the government and the energy companies agree on a fixed price. If the price for the gas goes up, then the government has to pay the difference.
Right.
If it goes down, the company has to pay the difference. And confidential differences work very well in the renewable sector. In the sense, if you have a build an offshore wind farm, okay, and the price of building it goes up, the government has to fork out the money. But if it goes down, the fact is it never goes down, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just a one-off, and then so that's what could have worked, but he didn't go through with that.
Well,
So his next thing is he says, I'm going to give £620 to all poor families, and we're going to have lash out 400 quid to every household.
So does that not kind of seem like votes for money? If you vote for me, I'm going to give you money.
It's a bribe, yeah, of course it's a bribe. But it's sort of like Peter paying for Paul. Peter gets all the money from the government. Then the government, in the form of the regulator, says that in October 1, the energy cap's going to go by 800 quid. So that's Peter's paying for Paul, isn't it? And Paul gets all the bloody dosh, but he doesn't use it to alleviate people's bills. He gives a lot of that money to the energy suppliers' directors in the form of a salary. So the man is buggered up all along the way.
Right.
Well, I mean, not that I'm like, I got the winter food allowance, and they wouldn't let me pay it back. So,
What do you mean?
well, I'm talking about these bribes.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, going back to the Chinese thing that I mentioned, Rishi Sunak being endorsed by the CCP, you're sort of an energy expert and you know a lot about climate change, right? What do you see as the biggest threat to this country? Do you see climate change being a bigger threat, or do you see China being a bigger threat?
I think climate change is the biggest threat we face. It's an existentialist thing. Now, I know about China. I've been there, and I can remember when the China wanted to expand their empire in Vietnam and the Paracel Islands, of all these things. Once the Chinese has shaken off communism, and
which won't happen. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Not in my lifetime.
No. What they're going to do is shake off the political aspects of communism, but kept the political aspects. So, in fact, they run a communist political system, but their economic system is totally capitalist and Western, right? They can do with what they want, and they can run a very, very vibrant economy. What they do.
Well, I personally think that the biggest threat to this country and the Western world is China.
In what sense? They're going to come and nuke us? Nobody else.
I don't think they're going to nuke us, but have you... There's this thing called, I think it's fifth generational warfare.
Yeah.
So I don't think World War III will be nukes. And this has been talked about before. World War III will be a information war. It'll be an info wars.
What, cyber war? Cyber war?
Info wars.
Cyber war.
Yeah. I think yeah. Because nukes are just, they don't really
but
make
you're
a whole
talking
lot of
about,
sense.
you talk about an old thing. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me.
That's out the window now.
Why?
That doesn't exist anymore. Because we got hate crimes in this country. If you say certain words, if you say certain phrases, if you use the wrong word, oh well, that's it. Sticks and stones broke this guy's bones. You're getting arrested.
Well, all right.
You're getting a non-crime.
How is China going to actually do for us? Just tell me how they're going to do it.
I think it's going to be a cyber warfare.
What are they going to do then?
What they're going to do is they're going to slowly infiltrate the youth. They're going to yes, my generation. What they're going to do is they're going to put out maybe these social media platforms, and the kids will get addicted to these platforms, and every so often they'll put in some propaganda in there, and the kids will be scrolling through their phone, and then they'll get propaganda from the Chinese government, and it won't be obvious, like most propaganda. It's not obvious.
I think young people in Britain are not that stupid.
For
example,
that's the thing. You don't know many young people.
What about?
All right.
Okay. Sussex University, right?
No, I'm talking about my generation, Generation Z.
Yeah, I'm talking about Generation Z. 18-year-old Chinese people at Sussex University. Okay.
Right.
I used to do mentoring for them and so forth and so on. And about the 12 people I was involved with weren't actually up to Chinese propaganda. The thing about Sussex University, for example, that it came because it wanted to make some money. There were companies in China says that to go to Chinese rich Chinese families, and there are such things in China now. We can get you a place at Sussex University, and they flooded the campus with Chinese children.
Right.
18-year-old kids. Right? Who couldn't read English, let alone do bloody maths and physics. And they're all still there.
The Chinese people, of course, they can do maths.
Well, it's not much cop with doing maths if you can't speak English, can it?
No.
That's the whole thing. And what I'm trying to say to you is that these Chinese kids are not easily brainwashed. They're simply not.
Well, I'm saying English. The Western children will have the social media be put out to them. The Chinese government will indoctrinate the Western children, people from this country. You haven't met many of my generation, is what I'm saying. Not the Chinese generation. I'm talking about my generation.
Well,
I know lots of people my age, and I'm sorry, that they are retarded. They are. Most people my age have no clue what's going on. I think they're stupid enough to be indoctrinated by the Chinese government through apps like TikTok. I really do.
Well, well, maybe you might. I've known a lot of 18-year-old people. I don't think they do. They're not really, smart enough to feel that Trump is only an applicant member of the human race. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I know you might be right, but it sounds to me Orwellian. You don't know what that means, do you?
I do. I've read.
Yeah.
1980.
Is it? Maybe it is Orwellian.
Well, not read, but
Yeah. Everybody will brainwash. I can't see that happening.
I certainly can. In fact, I'm already seeing it happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, in what way?
TikTok, okay, it's the biggest social media platform ever.
Really? Well, I don't know anything about TikTok. What
TikTok is the biggest social media platform ever. It's like short clips up to a minute long, and kids are just literally anything you can imagine. It's on there, and people my age are just stuck there, going through their phone, just flicking, constantly, just addicted to this app. And do you know who owns TikTok? China. Oh, there's a one. Right. What they're doing is they are putting Chinese propaganda in the algorithm for Western people. So when they do bad things, when China, I don't know, eventually invades Taiwan, people will be like, oh, I don't really care about that.
They've been talking about invading Thailand for over 60 years that I can remember.
It's
and I've been to both places. So yeah, Taiwan is not going to go that easy. And again, frankly, you get to the whole question of deterrence. That, if Chinese get really too leery, then there will be a response. Yeah, I mean, we've got quite good cyber people in this country who are looking at this all the time.
The reason China now more than ever wants Taiwan is because Taiwan is where all our chips come from, like computer chips
Not
for
all
phones.
Not all of
I
them.
know,
Not all of them.
Not all, but the most.
You ever heard of Samsung? Well, you know where that comes from?
China.
Korea.
Oh.
It's a Korean product.
Yeah, I know, but they still use Chinese slave labor.
Well, but so does everybody else. They've been using it for donkey's years.
But I'm saying most of the chips...
All right, okay. Oh, no. I tell you what.
What?
Vietnam has stolen the market in Vietnam in trainers. Doing much better. The Vietnamese say anything they can do, we can do better. We can't do much about IT, but things like trainers and all kinds of things like that. Vietnam's got the bloody market.
Go Vietnam. They can do better at slavery. Or worse, actually.
But Vietnamese?
Yeah.
Why would they bother?
Well, I'm glad that Vietnam is number one in child labor. So
Vietnam's not number one.
I know, I'm joking.
No.
Chinese
are, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mind you, Chinese, a lot of Chinese, that's been going on for years and years and years. It's not a fifth World War.
China never abolished any sort of slavery. It still goes on today.
Mm.
I mean, this is your phone, right?
Yeah.
This was made by Chinese children.
Uh-huh.
And so was this. So is my phone. So is this computer. Right. So is probably this light.
Right, so we do it.
Everything.
Air control to Major Tom. Air control to Max.
Well, that's the thing also about TikTok.
You will now switch the spaceship off, Max.
Well, that's the thing about TikTok. It's also got so many backdoors in the algorithm that people, in the coding, not the algorithm, in the coding, that the people who own TikTok can actually listen in to your phone and conversations and use your camera at any point whatsoever. Any point whatsoever. They can just listen to your conversations. Same with Alexa.
Oh, they do already, don't they?
Yeah. But this is...
Well, when I get these telephones,
because it has the most open backdoors.
When I get the telephone calls, they say, nuisance calls, they say, who am I speaking to? And I say, oh, you're speaking to Sergeant Jones at the Lewis Police Station. Ah! Soon puts them off.
Actually, one of my grandparents has great fun with those scam calls because she pretends to be like an 80-year-old woman on the phone and just wastes their time because she's got nothing. I mean, well, she has got stuff going on, but she finds it fun to waste their time. Any more headlines? I've got one here. I think this might be the last story.
Right. No, listen to this one. National rail strike adds to travel woes. Well, that was a video of it. Won't be going over Gatwick in future. Thursday strikes, but that was set to travel attention. On the weekend, chaos of channel ports and continue delays. You see, there's nothing good about Brexit, Max. All those lorry drivers and bloody people queuing up from Dover. All those bloody.
Aren't you pro-vaccine?
Am I pro-vaccine?
Yeah, for COVID.
Yeah.
But Brexit did amazing for the COVID vaccines. We were the first country. We were the first country in Europe to get like 80% vaccinated.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was down to Boris. Now you must.
Yeah, that was down to Brexit because we didn't have to listen to the bureaucratic laws of the EU. So.
Oh, don't be daft. Come on. Half of it was done over here, Oxford, wasn't it? It was them that wasn't getting it. We were getting it because it was at Oxford that the AstraZeneca was being tried.
Well,
and I think it was manufactured there as well.
What was? The vaccine.
Yeah.
I think so.
And
Aren't you about to be on your 5th vaccine?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I'm so healthy.
Yeah. That's why I'm so healthy as well.
What, because you've been vaccinated?
No, I'm not vaccinated.
That's all.
No. Well, I'll get all the vaccines, just not the COVID one. I'm just a little bit suspicious of it. That's all. That's the only one. I have to get my flu shot every year because
I get that
because of my asthma, and I'm happy to get that every year. But the COVID one, I'm not too keen on. But this is an article here from The Guardian. Not that I particularly like The Guardian, but I'll read it anyway. Supercar sales accelerate in the UK. There has been a 19% rise in Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and Maseratis sold. A 19% increase this year.
Right.
When everyone's strapped for cash at the moment. Not strapped for cash, though. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know.
You know what like that is, don't you?
What?
It's all them rich footballers.
It's
buying
rich.
them cars.
Yeah.
All them rich people get £200,000 a week.
Oh, yeah. Well, now the women can play football, they can buy things as well.
Yes, that's a good. That's wonderful. I think it's fantastic that the women can play football, cricket, and make money and so on.
Yeah.
You didn't see the match last night? Oh, I've not been watching football for ages, but
I've never watched a game of football in my life.
Think about you might think this is feminist nonsense, but
Probably. That's why I'm going to respond.
The football for women is rather slower. It's not quite as pacey as the of the Brits. Secondly, it's not as rough and tough. If you see what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean the men are very tough to one another.
Yeah.
Kicking one another, faking falls.
Wow. Are you saying women are delicate?
No, I am not saying they're delicate. What I'm saying is they're not actually liable to get kicked, punched, and bruised because they are women. That is right because it's not the way it works.
Okay. Well, I think we'll end it on that.
I know you think they should pack up and go and look after their kids and not play football anymore, but that's your problem.
Oh.
Well, Max Hurd says you should be at home cooking a bloody supper and looking after the children, not playing bloody football.
So what you're saying is, I hate that, honestly. All right, well, we'll leave it on that note. We will. What day is it today? It's Wednesday. Well, Keith will see you tomorrow here from 8:30 to 11:30 here on Mirador Television on YouTube, Facebook. Thank you very much for watching today. It's been an interesting show. Energy Matters was quite good as well. Is there anything you'd like to say before we head off?
No, I'm fine. I'm done.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening and have a good rest of your day.